For many women, being out alone after dark can be an unsettling experience. They fear the sexual predator who may be hiding in the shadows, waiting to pounce. So they walk swiftly, their eyes darting from shadow to shadow, always ready to run if they see anything suspicious. With women on alert, it makes things more difficult for some determined sexual predators. So they come up with elaborate methods to put a woman at her ease, to make an abduction for sexual assault easier and less risky for themselves. This is the tale of a crime which happened long ago in Texas, a sex crime with disturbing undertones. On the 4th of July 1985, police received a call from a female claiming she had been raped. The police responded and took a statement from the alleged victim. She stated that she was returning home from a friend's house in Pasadena, Texas, when a white car pulled alongside her. She thought it was an unmarked police car, as it had what she described as a Kojak light on the back deck. The car followed her home, and when she parked at her apartment complex, the white car pulled in behind her, blocking her car. The driver of the white car, a male around 23 or 24, asked to see her driver's license, and when she asked why, she was told that he was investigating a robbery at a local 7-Eleven. Believing the man to be a police officer, she complied and handed over her driver's license. He then told her that she would have to accompany him to the 7-Eleven to be identified. The victim went to her apartment and told her mother what was happening, and then she returned to the parking area where she asked the man for identification. She was shown what she believed to be a police identification card. She sat in the front passenger seat of what she believed to be a police vehicle and noted that in the centre console was what she thought was a police radio. The man drove a short distance and then stopped. He told her to put her hands behind her back, and he secured her wrists with flex cuffs, saying it was for his own safety. Instead of driving to 7-Eleven, he drove to a vacant lot behind a Circle K, where he raped her. He then drove her to within 1 block of her home, where he stopped. He showed her a blue semi-automatic pistol and said, "This is in case you do something stupid." He also told her there was no point reporting this because cops protect their own. He let her out of the car, threw her purse out after her, and left. She wisely called the police, and an investigation began. At the time, there had been a number of similar incidents of females being sexually assaulted by a man impersonating a police officer, and the circumstances were eerily similar, right down to the description of the suspect and the vehicle. So police showed her photographs of the suspects that they already had, but she failed to identify anyone. A number of suspects came and went, ruled out by the victim looking at more photographs and stating that they were not the guy. Eventually, a clerk at the Circle K came forward after seeing an artist's impression of the suspect. She thought that the description of the suspect matched her boyfriend. She stated that he altered a car which matched the description of the vehicle. Her boyfriend's name was Earl David Warden. To cut a long story short, in 1986, Earl David Warden stood trial and was found guilty of aggravated sexual assault and unauthorised use of a motor vehicle. He was given 10 years probation, a $10,000 fine, and placed on the sex offenders register for life. However, that's not the end of Earl David Warden's story. In 1992, he was found to be carrying a firearm on licensed premises. As a felon, he was not allowed to have a firearm outside his place of residence. As a result of this, his probation was revoked and he was incarcerated for 5 years on the original charge of aggravated sexual assault. He was released in 1997. In 1998, having not learned his lesson, he was again found to be carrying a firearm in a place other than his home. He was sentenced to another 5 years on one of the charges related to the 1986 conviction. When he was apprehended in 1998, he was in the process of having sex with a 17-year-old girl. In Texas, 17 is above the age of consent, so there's no crime there. So, where do the rape apologetics fit in? Well, Steve McRae hosted a hangout with News Now Houston about the do's and don'ts of First Amendment auditing. First Amendment auditing involves filming in public places and seeing if the police will intervene and infringe the filmer's First Amendment rights. Now, this is an important safeguard in policing the police, but some do go out of their way to antagonise the police or act suspiciously to ensure that they get arrested in order to give them something to sue over, to upload to their YouTube channel, and to whine about. When the hangout began and News Now Houston appeared on screen, it became apparent to all watching that Steve's First Amendment auditor was none other than Earl David Worden. A felon was now policing the police. Immediately, people familiar with his history began commenting in the live chat to give Steve a heads up that his guest had an axe to grind against the police and a very unsavoury criminal record, unconnected to his First Amendment auditing. In this case, it was important to have full disclosure on this person, because if they are trying to expose the police, you need to know if they do have another axe to grind. Otherwise, you won't take them seriously. There was no disclosure. So what was the response to this information being posted into the live chat? Well, most of the posts were deleted. They were called lies and troll posts. And then people began supplying links to the information in comments beneath the video of the hangout. The links were deleted. Links were posted on Twitter. The tweets were deleted. What did Steve have to say about this? He called it a witch hunt. He claimed that those posting only had a superficial understanding compared with what he knew about Worden's criminal past. And he claimed that the aggravated sexual assault conviction was based on a technicality to do with age, with the female being only 17. Except, as I've already stated, 17 is above the age of consent in Texas. How can he make that claim and expect to be believed? Well, that's because he's deleted all of the links that people had tried to provide, which meant that his fans would not be able to look up the information for themselves from those links. And then this happened.
Did you just get my PM? You should read that.
Yeah. Oh, has Drag not seen it yet? Oh my fucking god! Get ready.
Okay, is this it about between her and Michael?
Yeah.
Yes.
I've seen his stuff. Hold on. I'll be honest. This is not the kind of response I'd expect. I would be concerned if I were in your position. I'm not attacking you. Seeing stuff, I'm not impressed, so that would be a hard pass. He's a registered sex offender. And so she highlights, I would be concerned if I were in your position. I'm not attacking you. And then she says, sure sounds like it. What? And Michael says, I'm offering you my thoughts. Drag is a registered sex offender. Yes!
Cheshire.
Nice.
Cheshire said
Nice.
that you're a registered
I am a
sex
registered sex offender. Awesome.
Yes.
Awesome.
Wait.
I
Is she
love
doing
it.
that to be tongue in cheek or what?
Wow.
Is she serious?
Awesome.
Is she serious?
Oh, really? Cool. So
Greg,
let's...
I'm gonna have to put your tickets for the.
And the reason given for this false accusation? Well, none other than a missing question mark. A wholly inadequate apology was given, not for the false information that had been spouted, but for missing a question mark. Now let's look at this superficial understanding and see where it comes from. Well, we have this file, which contains the contemporaneous police reports during the investigation in the 1985 case. It includes the 23-year-old victim's description of what happened to her that night, the forensic examination of her clothing and the scene, the initial suspects, and how they were eliminated, and an explanation of how Warden's name was first brought to the attention of detectives. Then we have the verdict of the jury in the 1986 trial, where Warden was found guilty of aggravated sexual assault and unauthorised use of a motor vehicle. We also have the full court records of sentencing and the subsequent breaches of probation conditions. So where does Steve get his in-depth understanding from? From none other than Warden himself. So Steve believed Warden when he claimed it was a Romeo and Juliet situation, even though the records from 1985 and 86 show that both Warden and the victim were 23 years old and unknown to each other. Warden is using the 1998 firearms conviction when he was found with a 17-year-old and trying to slip the 17-year-old into the 1986 conviction. And you will notice that in 1998 there is no charge remotely close to a sexual assault. His probation was revoked on the unauthorised use of a motor vehicle. No sexual offence was committed in 1998 because the girl was above the age of consent. There's no Romeo and Juliet scenario here. So, am I suggesting some form of guilt by association here? Not at all. Steve can platform whoever he wants to platform. My problem is with Steve's actions afterwards. His apologetics, with his claims to know so much more than those trying to supply links. His attempts to minimise the crime for which Warden was convicted, and his efforts to hide this information from his viewers. In August 2018, Steve had posted this to his Twitter, and it remained pinned until people began to question his handling of the Earl David Warden situation. Suddenly, it became unpinned. So to those of you who are fans and supporters of everything that Steve does, ask yourself this. The next time that Steve tells you to ignore information because he claims it has been provided by people who don't know what he knows and to trust him, will you? Will you accept his labelling of these people as uninformed trolls on a witch hunt? Or will you ask him to support his claims and his character assassinations and tell him he needs to provide receipts?